Welcome to Hotline Weekend, your ultimate weekend getaway for nonstop excitement and entertainment. Join us every week as we bring you Metro News Hotline's most popular features, engaging interviews, and thrilling games. Kick back, relax, and relive the highlights of our most talked about segments. Hotline Weekend, your ultimate dose of fun and unforgettable moments.
But I can't keep Chef Paul waiting. He's a busy guy. He's running like 4 or 5 restaurants, and who knows what else he's doing. Hey, Paul, how you doing today, man?
What's up, guys? Always a pleasure. I am fantastic.
So where are you? Are you at 1010?
I'm at 1010. You'll probably hear the phone ring here in about 30 seconds.
I do enjoy listening to the phone ring there. Hey, so, we haven't really talked too much about how local businesses are doing. How is the restaurant business right now?
I tell you, the couple weeks before and the couple weeks after 4th of July are usually slow.
Right.
People kind of finishing up vacations, grilling and chilling, those kinds of things. It's been, the pitch has been pretty slow. Ellen's has been doing great, middle of summer, ice cream, what's not to love.
Right.
1010 is about status quo. From what I understand from everybody, things are going really well. There's a new modern tavern. They're touting it up right around the corner from me, right next to Lola's Pizza, called Burnbank.
Okay.
Getting ready to open within the next 3 weeks. Findo and Mike Medley are two staples in the restaurant business around here, opening up something cool. So I'm excited for our neighborhood. It's going to be awesome. I did hear, unfortunately, that Gonzo Burger closed.
Really?
So that's a real shame. Yeah, I just received a text message.
Wow.
So I was really, really sad to see that. It's always sad to see any restaurant close that is locally owned and operated. I'm sad, but also happy for Dave Hayden to go on to the next chapter of his life. There you go.
Well, I sent you a story earlier today about chain restaurants. And Subway has over 20,000 locations. 20,000, despite the fact they were down 2.7 units last year. There are 20,576 Subways. There are 13,667 McDonald's. There are 15,396 Starbucks. I wanted to ask you, what are the pros and cons of owning a franchise?
Pros are tried and true. It is what it is.
Right.
It's, you talk about those three. I mean, it's super convenient, very quick. Maybe not the best quality, but not bad, and a very recognizable brand. I don't think there is a more recognizable brand than the Golden Arches, right?
Right.
So, that's one of those things. Starbucks is the same thing. I mean, it may not be as great as, the Cole Rivers or the Mia Cuppas or these local the local coffee shops, but they're everywhere, and they're very convenient, and they're very consistent. And I think one of the best things about them is the consistency. I mean, you know what you're getting.
What about, but look at a guy like you. You don't own franchises. You do your own standalone. What are some of the pros of going in that direction? I mean, you just dropped the news about Gonzo Burger. I mean, what do we know that what the stats really don't favor independent restaurants?
No, sir, they do not. I mean, we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary at the pitch last month, at 1010 last week, and we're beating the odds. 97% of all restaurants fail within the first 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are beating the odds. My good friend Tom Minturn, who has Chick-fil-A in Southridge and, down in South Charleston. I mean, it's awesome, but you have to follow the rules. You have to follow the guidelines. You have to do what corporate says, and I think that's the difference, good, bad, or otherwise, with a locally owned restaurant. I can do what I want. I can I can call my own shots. I can set my own menu. Obviously, I need to stay within the parameters of what we say is I'm not going to do a Wagyu or an A5 Wagyu filet at the pitch.
Right.
And I'm also not going to, I'm not going to, do pizza at 10:10. But, I think that's for me as a chef, as, an entrepreneur and as a creative person, I want to have creative freedom. But at the same time, it is nice to follow the guidelines and have things set and kind of be mindless sometimes. And I think in a restaurant like mine, you need to have some structure. You have to have structure. You have to have consistency, or, you're going to fail. So I think there is pros to both for sure. By
the way, if you want to get a question to Chef Paul about the restaurant business or food preparation, you got a couple of minutes to do that. 304-8255-304, 304-TALK 304. Hey, Paul, how's the salsa business going? How's that working out?
It's going great, man. It's going gangbusters. We were about ready to do our second cook of the salsas. Tamarack, the Capital Market, all of the places that are selling the blue smoke salsa are just, really killing it. The next rollout is another locally owned restaurant, maybe one that I have, that I've been, on the show outside, maybe in the Lewisburg area.
Okay.
We're thinking about doing 3 of their sauces, the pizza, the pasta, and the Cajun sauce, and starting to bottle those. So, it's a really exciting time for me. It's with the James Beard stuff and really just, I think it's a really exciting time to be in the hospitality industry in West Virginia. We're just, the trajectory is going up for not the first time, but it is really on the rise, and I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Hey, which of the salsa variations sells the best?
It's crazy. They're all selling about the same. Now, the mild from just the OG it outsells everything. But the new ones, they're kind of neck and neck. And it's funny, everybody that tastes them, 10 people, 3 will say one, 3 will say the other, 3 will say the other.
Okay.
I personally like the cherry chipotle the best myself because I like that smoky heat chipotle.
Hey, Coop, jump on with us. I saw this today. I sent it to you. It's at the takeout. Controversial food opinions we will not apologize for. So I got a couple of these I wanted to ask you. We were talking about the pitch. And here's someone who likes mayonnaise on a hot dog. Has anybody ever ordered mayo on a hot dog at the pitch?
I don't think so. I'm sure somebody has, and I'm not gonna frown. I'm not gonna judge.
Okay, Coop, mayo on a hot dog.
The flavor profile seems weird to me. It doesn't seem like the tangy or the flavor of mayo would really do much to a hot dog. Honestly, that's why you use tangier stuff like mustard and ketchup. So I don't know. Whatever people want, but it doesn't ring with me.
All right, I'm totally out on that.
Yeah,
totally out on that. I just don't like mayo. Actual eggs in the beer. Eggs in the beer. Coop.
So this is the raw egg in the beer. After, yeah, I've seen this. I don't care for it. Just drink your beer. I don't know what the point is. Yeah, I'm out.
Paul?
Yeah, no, I'm going to do an omelet and a non-alcoholic beer. No, eggs and beer. Not unless you're trying to do something crazy where you're doing egg whites and trying to clarify the beer and doing some molecular stuff. I'm completely out on that.
All right.
We'll leave that to Rocky.
All right, one thing about the kitchen. You can wash your cast iron with soap and water.
No.
You're out on that?
No.
Absolutely.
No, I'm out on it.
Man, soap will destroy cast iron. What do you need? You need to have those oils and stuff in there, right, Chef? You have to have the
oil,
the patina.
I do salt and oil.
Yeah.
A little bit of water if you need to. You can get really hot and kind of lift some of the stuff off of it. But no, salt and oil. That's it, man.
Is it canola oil, Chef, or what do you use?
I use canola mostly only because of the price, and really just I don't want to put peanut oil in there just in case.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not putting Villa de Trapano olive oil in there either.
We could have done an entire segment on this.
On cast iron for sure, man.
On cast iron and cast iron seasoning.
Oh, yeah.
All right, one more controversial opinion. There is nothing wrong with a cold, tall glass of milk. Coop? When was the last?
To drink?
To drink. A cold, full glass of milk.
There's two answers here for me. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. If that's what you want, you can have it. My grandma used to pour me milk by the glassful when I would come in from outside all hot and sweaty, like, here, drink your milk, son. I do not do that anymore. However, if that's you, my mom drinks milk like it's water. That's her drink of choice. But it's fine.
Okay. I see Jarett in the back. He's shaking his head. He grew up on a farm. So I got his attention on that. Paul, there is nothing wrong with drinking a tall, full glass of milk.
I'm going to stick with Ron Burgundy on this and say milk was a bad choice.
Fair enough. Hey, thanks for the conversation today, Paul. Always enjoy talking about the restaurant business and food prep with you. I'll talk to you next Monday at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. Have a big week.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks. Take care.
All right, Chef Paul Smith. Man, oh man. Little breaking news about the restaurant business here in Charleston. Sounding good. We enjoy Paul. Coop, how long have we been doing that segment with Paul? We're talking years now, right?
I'm quite certain that Paul was one of our original. Having Paul on at some point, maybe it wasn't always Monday at 4:06, but I think having Paul on at some point was darn near one of our original ideas because we were working on something together when this show got launched. He had been doing some stuff here with me locally, and we were working on some ideas, and it kind of turned into this.
Yeah, he's a great resource of knowledge on the restaurant business and food prep as well. Very accomplished.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
But I want to get Kristyn Burtt on here because we got so much to talk about. Kristyn, how you doing?
Doing great.
You know what? I want to talk a little bit first about Suits. Suits. Why is Suits so popular again? I'm seeing that since it got added to the offerings on Netflix, people are they're watching this thing like crazy. What is it about Suits?
There's a couple of things going on. The first one I'm going to say is the Meghan Markle factor, of course.
Sure.
She's royalty adjacent at this point, with now that they've left the royal family. But she was in the series from 2011 until 2018. She left acting as a career after she married Prince Harry. But there is a curiosity there. And the show was on USA Network for 9 seasons altogether, moved over to Peacock. But it's Netflix where it found its eyeballs, and it had 3.1 billion viewing minutes during 1 week on the 2 streaming services, if you combine both Netflix and Peacock. And it's a great series. It's one of those great legal procedurals. I think the stories hold up. And now people are talking about a revival.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what would they try to do? Would they try to bring back the old cast? Would they recast it? Do you think it's possible to do this?
I think it is possible with most of the cast. Meghan Markle has officially retired from
True.
acting, so I don't think that they're going to get her. Maybe they could get a cameo out of her, but they're not going to get her as a series regular. But I believe the rest of the cast is interested, and showing the strength and success of this is a really big deal. And this also shows the strength of Netflix, because you're seeing that, it didn't have as many eyeballs on Peacock, but once it got to Netflix, it discovered a new audience.
You know what? I think that Meghan might do this. I think she would probably do a cameo on this show if it came back. Don't you?
I buy a cameo. I don't buy like a series regular, but I definitely buy a cameo. I think she could be talked into doing, I don't know, a little quick 4 or 5 lines showing up in one episode, but I don't think she'll go back to acting full time.
So obviously Barbie continues to be a huge story in the theater, Oppenheimer as well, but Barbie's been the real big winner. I guess there was just no room for Haunted Mansion. And it turned out to be a major flop.
Yeah, this is really disappointing for Disney because they've had a lot of flops this summer. We've talked about them over and over again between Elemental and, of course, Indiana Jones. And this is another one to add to the list. It had a budget of $150 million, but it kind of got hobbled by the actors' strike. When they did the red carpet, the actors' strike had already started. So unfortunately, they had Disney villains on the red carpet instead of the actual actors. And the other thing, why wasn't this released at Halloween?
Right. Yeah, that's the question. I'm looking at the story in Variety from this morning, and they're asking the question, why didn't they save Haunted Mansion for Halloween? I'm sure there's a reason, but I don't know what it is.
I don't either. And, I did see this movie last Monday night, and it is a breezy, fun 2 hours. If you've been to either of the parks, Disney World or Disneyland, there's a lot of callbacks to the ride, but I thought the way it dealt with grief, the way it dealt with, some of the spooky elements. This is a really good one for Disney fans. I thought it was a decent movie. It just didn't find its audience.
All right. Tell me about what's the controversy surrounding Days of Our Lives? What's going on here? The soap opera Days of Our Lives. What's the news on that?
Ooh, this one is big. So one of their co-executive producers and directors, Abrar Al-Heeti, was under investigation for misconduct. It was found that there were incidents of sexual harassment, sexual assault, as well as really kind of an unpleasant atmosphere altogether. And Sony had an independent investigation go on. He was reprimanded because he did admit to some of the infractions, but they kept him in the role. And what wound up happening was there was a low morale on set, and people got really, really frustrated that they felt like their calls of help and cries of help were completely ignored. So the set is completely shut down until August 7th, while Sony and NBC Universal try and figure out a solution to this issue. But as of right now, Abrar Al-Heeti still has a job as a co-executive producer and a director, and he's scheduled to direct at some point within the next week if he's allowed in his position to stay on the job.
So how are soap operas doing in the streaming world? Days of Our Lives was on NBC forever. Now it's on Peacock. Are there a lot of people who watch it?
Yeah, it does have a pickup at least for 2 more seasons, which is good news. It's been pretty strong on Peacock. And the fans like being able to go back and watch episodes, which they couldn't before when it was on linear TV on NBC. CBS has the strongest daytime lineup with The Young and the Restless and The Bold and the Beautiful. But just know that right now, the actors they're on a different contract. They are allowed to continue with their jobs, but the soap writers are all scabs. They have crossed the picket line, and they are non-union writers. Their usual Writers Guild of America writers are still on the picket line. So the storylines could get pretty messed up over the next few months.
All right, we're continuing with the writers' strike. The actors' strike is happening simultaneously. Now it's starting to impact the fall movie season.
Absolutely. And you asked us a few weeks ago, and I said, I think right now it's fine. And then all of a sudden, everyone started getting really nervous. And I have a feeling because Haunted Mansion didn't do well and wasn't able to get that same promotional push from the actors, studios are really going to get nervous. You do have Sony already pushing back Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse for the 3rd film in the animated franchise. That's going to open much later. Ghostbusters The Afterlife, that has been pushed from a Christmas release to Easter weekend in 2024. A Karate Kid reboot has been kicked all the way to December 2024. And a horror film from Blumhouse, They Listen, now is going all the way to an August 2024 opening.
Hey,
it's happening.
Let me ask you as we wrap this up. Are you surprised by the success of Barbie?
No, not at all. I mean, besides the really ingenious marketing campaign, the movie is strong. What it does is it's an event movie. It brings people together. When I went to the movie theater that first weekend, there were dads in pink, there were kids in pink, there were, groups of women together. I just feel like it's an empowering movie for so many people. And yes, it's not for 6-year-olds, but there were a lot of 6-year-olds in attendance, and they had just as much fun as the 40-year-olds going to see it.
So what do you think? Do you think, is Barbie a franchise? I mean, can there be more Barbie movies?
Greta Gerwig, who directed the film, said she doesn't have another Barbie movie in her right now. You know that Mattel is amping up. Not only they're hoping for another Barbie movie, but they're doing a lot with some of their other toys. Everything from Hot Wheels to Magic 8 Ball to Viewmaster. They're getting really excited about doing projects moving forward.
All right, got to leave it there. Hey, thanks for the update, Kristyn Burtt, Hollywood Dirt, every Monday at 4:33 on the show. Kristyn, have a good week.
You too. Thank you.
Kristyn Burtt, Hollywood Dirt. Coop, is Shannon bugging you to go see Barbie?
No, I mean, I think that my daughter would like it, but we're still a little, she's a little young. Maybe, I don't know, she's 5. She's a little young for it, but also she's not confirmed for being able to sit still for 2 hours yet. Every test we've ran out, she's not quite been able to make it. So we're holding off on the theater experience.
The funny thing about the success of Barbie is, everybody right now is saying, oh, we knew it all along. I mean, there are a lot of people who were thinking this thing was going to be a total bust.
Well, I think especially back when they weren't real sure what they were going to do with the movie, when they knew that they were going to do it, and it was even out of pre-production when Amy Schumer was going to be involved with it, and then that got canned, and people were wondering what was going to happen. I had a little bit of a feeling that first teaser trailer that came out over the winter, I think it was, or something like that. It was a little different. It was very meta. It was very self-aware, and you could sort of tell that it was going to approach things a little bit differently. I don't know the first thing about the movie, but I know that the teaser trailer and then the campaign that followed that actually got me to be like, I'm not going to mind watching Margot Robbie for 2 hours. That's going to be fine.
That's right.
It's going to be just fine. One question, we should probably ask Kristyn this sometime. Scab writers. When you get in as a scab writer, are you there to try to carry the torch and be like, man, when this is all said and done, they can't help but to offer me a job because I'm going to do so well, making sure that Roman and Marlena stay together or whatever. On our lives, right? Or are you like aliens, volcanoes, invisibility? Do you just go off the rails?
I hadn't even thought about that.
I would want to go off the rails, man.
Absolutely.
I would want to go off the rails.
Yeah.
Metro News Hotline, weekdays from 3 until 6. Syndicated over the air and online at wvmetronews.com.
Dave, we've talked a lot of football on the show already today. How ready are you for something to actually happen? The preseason, the regular season, just something.
Oh, man, I can't wait now, especially after today's practice and the seemingly solid show that George Pickens had today. He had an insane one-handed catch down the sideline against Joey Porter Jr. in one of the drills portion of practice. Looked like he had another toe-tapping catch in the back of the end zone during the day as well, too. And, obviously today is the first day in pads for this team in training camp. This is the 5th practice that just wrapped up today. So, yeah, absolutely can't wait to for some sort of football. And I'm a big fan of preseason football, like I told you last week. So,
that's right.
We're counting down. I think we got about, 10 days until they kick off their preseason. And happy Tuesday to you.
And happy Tuesday to you as well. This picture that you have of George Pickens' catch over Joey Porter Jr. is amazing. Is that one of your guys who took that picture?
Yeah, that's our photographer, Tim Rice, who's been with us for several years and, goes out to training camp every year and joins Alex out there, especially at the start of training camp. That's got to be one of his top 10 shots, I think, and when it comes to action shots. He really did a good job of capturing that one, and that was just an insane catch by George Pickens. But that's the kind of things I think we should come to expect when it's with him. He did that in college. You hear Kenny Pickett talk about how he does that in practice all the time, and that we don't get to see a lot of those phenomenal catches that he makes.
We played a soundbite from Quan Alexander in the 3 o'clock hour. What do you think he brings to the defense? How do you see his role?
Yeah, I think you get an experienced guy. You get somewhat of a pedigree guy, right? He played a lot of football. I think he turns, 28 or 29 here in a couple of days on the 3rd, I think. So, obviously, he's had some injuries in the past, was with the Jets last year, had to play quite a bit after one of their linebackers went down with injuries. In fact, I think he started and played pretty much the whole game against the Steelers last year. He's a little bit more athletic linebacker, kind of a complement to what they already have on the roster in Cole Holcomb and in Landon Roberts, and, of course, Mark Robinson there. So I think, you get a guy that's got experience. I think he can wear the green dot if need be as well, too. You might see him in some obviously they're not going to name a starter right now, so he's going to have to fight for a spot and all. But I would expect him to get some burn, maybe in some sub packages or something like that, because this team's going to need a coverage linebacker at some point. And Landon Roberts, that's not really his forte, if you will. He's more of a downhill guy. And then Cole Holcomb has experience and expects to be the 3-down linebacker, but especially for the price. Now we don't know what the contract is, but it's a 1-year deal, probably a minimum value deal with Quan Alexander. So if that's the case, give me as many of those guys that you can get.
Hey, what do you know? We mentioned Joey Porter Jr., and, this has just got to be a dream for him. I mean, he's basically at Latrobe at St. Vincent's College where his dad played for the Steelers, and he was hanging around there when he was a kid. Now he's on the team. He's already signed. That's a great story. But tell me a little bit about the injury to Corey Trice. What happened today?
Yeah, it sounds like it was a non-contact injury and down in a lot of pain and had to be helped up and onto the cart. Mike Tomlin didn't have much of a update after practice other than just saying, look, it's a non-contact injury. So, and look, Corey Trice has had some injury issues, during his career, during his college career as well, too. So, I think all we can do is, pray for the best here when it comes to him. And look, we've seen situations early in camp with like Ramon Foster several years ago, and I think Robert Golden several years ago, where it looked a lot worse than maybe than it ended up being.
Hey, let me ask you, what kind of a chance does Kenny Robinson have to make the Steelers? He was one of the standout guys on Sunday in a practice session that Minkah Fitzpatrick was setting out. He was playing spring football. He was with the Carolina Panthers for a while. It was a standout safety at WVU. What about Robinson? Can he make this team?
I tell you, he had a good end of the, before they had the break on Monday, he had a good practice there on Sunday when some of those younger players were able to get some time. Obviously, Minkah Fitzpatrick hasn't practiced yet in training camp, got some sort of personal issue going on. DeMonte Casey's dealing with an ankle injury right now that's got him sidelined. So look, you get these opportunities, especially in early camp. You got to take advantage of him. And he's a guy, I think, a former fifth-round draft pick, I think, of the Panthers. He's played a little bit of football, too. Not a lot, as far as NFL action goes. But, he has logged sometimes, got some good special teams tape out there as well, too. He's more of a free safety than he is a strong safety, and that's kind of why he's getting reps. I think he had 2 interceptions the other day in the Sunday practice. And, look, if he can start stringing these good practices together, and if he can show up on special teams in the preseason, I think he's got a shot, Dave. And he's kind of a guy that kind of come out of nowhere, but we see that every year with some guys deep down on the roster there once training camp gets underway.
He's a pretty interesting story. I mean, he was a solid defender at WVU, and he was playing in the XFL for Anthony Becht in St. Louis. He really didn't get much time at all when he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers, but I think he's a pretty good story, and he's a Pittsburgh guy. He'd love to play for the Steelers, obviously.
Oh yeah, look, you have to certainly circle his name at this point because you got questions about what Trey Norwood is, former draft pick of theirs, going into his 3rd season. He really needs to show something, and they're going to carry at least 4 or 5 safeties on this team, and you got to know that Minkah's going to be one, Casey's going to be one, Neal's going to be one. And how's it going to fill out past that? You would think that Miles Killebrew is more of a special teams guy, so you're going to need that backup free safety on that roster. So look, this early in camp, you definitely can't ignore a player like Kenny Robinson.
Finally, a little bit of roster news about the Steelers. They let Jason Huntley go today, but they signed another running back, Greg Bell. What do you know about Bell?
Yeah, not a lot. I haven't had a chance to dig into his tape. I think he was a San Diego State kid and just wrapped up a little bit, I think, with Vegas, I think, in the XFL as well, too. So, they've had a couple, guys go down, Alfonso Graham with his shoulder, and then they released Huntley. So then Monty Pottebaum, up and retired on him. So they had a couple of spots there. So, look, you throw them into the mix and see what they can do, and we'll see if he makes it to the first preseason game and can get a little burn late in that game. Can
you believe we're going to have the Hall of Fame game? What are we talking, like in a little more than 48 hours?
Man, I can't wait. I love any and all football, especially NFL football, and it'll be good to get that back on the TV again.
Coop, do you think you'll watch any of the Hall of Fame game? Will you tune in to see Aaron Rodgers holding a clipboard? Because he's not going to come within 5 miles of any snaps in that game.
I'm going to be completely honest here. I'm not going to watch it.
I know. I always watch the Hall of Fame game. I'm really excited for like the first 10 minutes of the game. And that's about all I can take.
I don't know that I've ever watched it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I've ever watched it.
Dave, will you watch the entire Hall of Fame game?
Well, I'll probably be doing the nightly podcast wrap up, but I'll tell you what, as soon as I get all my chores done with the site, I'll turn what's on and watch whatever's left of it.
All right. Hey, well, listen, thanks for coming on the show. As always, we'll talk more Steeler football next Tuesday at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. Have a good week.
Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
Let's get Abrar Al-Heeti on the line. Is she there? Abrar, how you doing? All right. What do you think when you hear a couple of people talking about old time MTV?
I love it. I'm here for it. You know what? We love the nostalgia. It's always beautiful.
Well, that's a really good answer. But I mean, how do you watch your videos? Okay.
YouTube is my best friend, and I love, one of my favorite things to do is just to play music videos in the background on my TV as I do household chores. It feels so much better than just listening, to the song.
Yeah, one of the things about MTV back in the day was when you saw the artists perform their songs, and there were, stories behind some of these videos. There were like little movies. That was the mental imagery that you had.
Yeah.
You didn't have that when there weren't videos.
Yeah, I not to make myself sound like a child, but I can't even it's so unreal to me that was really what revolutionized the idea of a music video and getting to see an artist's personality and also it just tells a story. I love when artists are creative with their videos and give you something, as you envision something with the song, and then you see what the artist envisioned with that song, and sometimes you just have to kind of bring those two worlds together somehow.
And so many artists adjusted to MTV better than others. I guess it was kind of like when we went from silent movies to talkies. Hey, let's get into some of the tech stuff. Talking about YouTube and streaming. What do you make of this idea that NASA is going to have their own streaming service? Coop, do we lose her?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I got you. See, what happened was I mentioned NASA, and
they cut the cord. They cut us from space.
I just went spinning out of control in orbit. So
it's a trigger word. It's like saying Voldemort. Yeah.
So what do you make of this NASA Plus streaming service idea?
It's kind of because it plays into this idea of everybody's doing it, right? Everybody has a streaming service, and now even NASA has a streaming service. This is something that we'll be launching later this summer. And the idea is really for people to be able, I actually think it's really cool because NASA's doing so many cool things, and I think space is amazing. I never thought that I would need a dedicated streaming service to watch NASA content, but this is a free streaming service, so you have nothing to lose here. But I think it's actually kind of, we're talking about putting music videos on in the background. Maybe it'd be nice to put on, a bit of NASA streaming in the background as you go about your day and just get a peek at what they're exploring out there.
I have to tell you, there is already a NASA app, and it's a little underwhelming. Because you never know what's really on, and it has a lot of press conferences that, they say in this story that they're going to be producing some shows. So I think they're going to have to up their game again, up their game a little bit here. But one thing they do, though, is you'll see a live shot of something that's in space that's rotating the Earth. And you'll get a live view of that. That's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing the first time you see it.
It is amazing. I feel like I've also stumbled across live streams on YouTube or something where it'll be like a NASA live stream and really just getting a peek at them just doing whatever they need to be doing up there at the International Space Station, or just getting a view of the Earth throughout the day. It really, I feel like we need that reminder that there's just more out there. We just think about the nitty gritty, and I feel like that kind of stuff is just a good reminder to be like, there's bigger things in this universe than whatever we're dealing with down here.
You're really true. That is very, very true. Now, Meta is one of the stocks that's way down today. It's been a kind of a tough day for tech stocks on Wall Street today. But tell me about this idea where Meta is going to let you use AI chatbots to talk to personalities. The headline got me right away. Do you want to chat with Abraham Lincoln? Meta wants to make it possible.
I'm still figuring out how I feel about this. In general, I am wary of AI chatbots, but I haven't even thought about AI chatbots with personalities. Really, the idea here is to make those conversations more engaging, to keep you on the platforms a little bit longer. If you're talking to a chatbot that has a personality like Abraham Lincoln, or one of the examples they gave was like, imagine the idea here is to, if you're looking for recommendations or, you're searching for something, you're looking for travel advice, the AI that is giving you travel advice is a surfer, and he's going to talk to you, or she's going to talk to you like they're a surfer, and you're going to feel like you're engaging with this personality. I think it's an interesting move, and really, we know that what Meta wants is for you to spend more time on its platforms.
Exactly.
And it also wants to get more information about you as an individual, so it can serve you more targeted ads. And if you're talking to an AI personality, you're more likely to have that kind of conversational back and forth than if you're just talking to a robot.
Hey, Coop, jump in here on this, because we've done a couple of AI experiments on the show.
Sure.
Okay, so if you had tried to go to Meta and tried to have a conversation with Abraham Lincoln, it's not 100% that all of the things that Lincoln would be saying in this artificial intelligence conversation would be correct, right?
Yeah, the thing that I find compelling about this is I think that you could create something that would be pretty interesting, honestly, because of the way that the language predictive model works. I think that it would be, I don't know how accurate, but it would it would seem authentic. And then the problem that you would have is the things that seem authentic, that's plausible, that Abe would say, and then the things that seem authentic that are complete hallucination that have no basis in reality. If they have a way to guardrail against that, I think there could be some use for it. I think it's very interesting, and I don't dislike that there could be uses of AI for things like this. It'd be interesting to interview Abe Lincoln, right? Or Alexander the Great. And, you base this off of people that have done tons of work. Or what about Pliny the Elder or somebody? That would be an interesting experiment to do, but there has to be ways to safeguard the hallucinations because they are intense.
Well, how about this? What if the Abe Lincoln chatbot was kind of snarky? You'd ask it a question, say like, "Tell me how you wrote the Gettysburg Address."
Now that sounds like something you would get on a Twitter ad.
That's right. And AI Abe would respond with something like, "I don't have time for this, man. I got to go back behind the cabin."
7 years ago. Know your role, jabroni.
Exactly. Or what if you ask a contemporary question? You're like, "Hey, Abe, what's your favorite TikTok trend?" You know what I mean? Like, what's he going to do with that?
Oh, that's exactly right. Who do you like in the NFC?
Abe loved to dab.
That's true.
Exactly.
Before we wrap this up, what do we know about Amazon's new recall and safety alerts page? What's that about?
Yeah, Amazon's kind of gotten some heat for not taking things down as quickly as possible, hazardous things and defective products. And so what they're doing now is whenever there's an item that has been recalled, you're going to get an alert within the Amazon app. And so if you go to the Your Orders page, there's a banner up there with a dedicated page that'll tell you what information you need to know if anything that you've bought has been recalled. So you'll know next steps about returns or refunds or repairs. And this is really to save you from having to go to a third-party site. Usually that's what you have to do. Go to a third-party site, find out about the recall, figure out what to do, share more of your personal information. Now this will all happen within Amazon.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. I'm going to put the link to that. If you follow me on Twitter at Weekly, I'll retweet this story once we get to the commercial break. Abrar, I think this may be the first segment we have done literally in months where we did not mention phones.
You know what? You're right. That's actually very true. We're kind of in this lull before Apple event next month, which was rumored to happen. We could see the next iPhone, so it won't last. But this is a special day.
I kind of feel good about that, actually.
I do too. Something different. Yeah.
All right.
We talked about Abe Lincoln dabbing. I mean,
that's true. That was a win-win. All right, got to leave it there. Thanks for coming on the show as always. We'll talk more about tech next Wednesday at the top of the 4 o'clock hour.
This is Hotline Weekend.
To get to the bottom of some of that, Jeff Erickson from RotoWire joins us now. How you doing today, Jeff?
Dave, I'm doing great. A lot going on, reacting to the trade deadline yesterday. Still have a third of the season left. People don't realize that. There's still a lot of baseball left to play. And, of course, baseball, a lot of fantasy football drafts as well, getting ready for that.
You're exactly right. I mean, there's a third of the baseball season left, and, fantasy players have a tendency to say, hey, forget it. I'm not in first place. I'm going to start focusing on football. If you're a dedicated baseball fantasy player, this is the time when you win your league.
Yeah, it's you can make a lot of hay here, and a lot of new opportunities cropping up. Free agent bidding this week is super important, and it's not just the players that get traded; it's also the players that are getting called up and are going to get some playing time. Look at the Guardians. Brian Rocchio got called up, good middle infield prospect. With them trading away, trading away multiple players. There's young kids are getting the opportunity for playing time.
I was really surprised that the Guardians were able to get rid of that contract to Josh Bell, but they managed to do it. They did manage to do it. Oh, by the way, I was watching some of your coverage last night. Is that a genuine Joey Votto jersey you were wearing?
Yes, sir. It's one of two jerseys I have, the other being Steve Yzerman. I'm not a jersey guy. I have a jersey for Joe Burrow, but I'm not much of a jersey guy. So, but Votto is my favorite player.
Hey, couple of teams. It's that time of the season where a couple of teams are looking at 6-man rotations. I mean, it used to be there would be a 4-man rotation. I think the Jays are dealing with that this week, and the Astros are going to be doing it at least for a little while, right? Anybody else?
Yeah, and the Angels have been doing it for a while. They'll continue to do so. At times the Mariners have, at times the A's have. The Angels, with Shohei, they have to.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right about that. So let's talk about some of the old faces in new places. Let's start with Scherzer. Has he increased in value now that he's in Texas? What does that mean fantasy-wise, his trade from the Mets?
I mean, I think it's pretty neutral. I mean, the ballpark might hurt him a little bit more, but he should get more run support. So that's the trade-off. Especially once Corey Seager comes back. That'll really be helpful. Rangers are in the thick of it here, and they're clearly in it to win it. I mean, they lose DeGrom, and then they still trade for Scherzer and Jordan Montgomery.
What do you think of Thor Syndergaard in his first start with the Indians? He looked pretty darn good.
Yeah, he was good for a while. He got a little lucky on one long fly ball by Jordan Alvarez. It was the wrong part of the park. So that kind of changed things a little bit. But the Guardians are good at getting a lot out of pitching. So are the Dodgers, though, too, Dave. So that was kind of surprising. The Dodgers, who really needed veteran starting pitching help, didn't want Thor back. They got rid of him. So that kind of tells you a lot.
Hey, let me ask you about a couple of NFL injuries. And obviously what's going on with Cooper Kupp and the Rams is impacting a lot of drafts around this time. I mean, look into your crystal ball. What do you think is happening here? Is he going to be out the entire preseason?
The Rams typically don't play their elite players in the preseason anyhow. So yeah, probably. Coming back from an injury like that, you would have liked to see him in some game action, and Stafford for that matter too. But this probably encourages them to take every single precaution.
So what do you think? If you were drafting tonight, do you think that Kupp would still probably be the second or the third wide receiver off the board?
No, I think he probably will drop. He won't be he was my wide receiver 3 or 4. But I think I'm now putting him as a second round price. I think I'd take CeeDee Lamb before him now. I think I'd probably take Stephon Diggs ahead of him now.
What about Jefferson?
Jefferson's the 1.1. He was already gone, and Chase was already gone in my mind before we even before that injury.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about Joe Burrow, because you're a Bengals guy as well. I mean, you went to the Super Bowl. The injury to Joe Burrow, how's that impacting his average draft position right now?
Hasn't dropped a ton yet, but Dave, I'm moving him down to one little mini tier. Previously, he and Lamar were going around picks, 35 to 40 in that range. Now I think I put him down in the next tier down, which means he's along with I put him closer like Justin Herbert, maybe below Herbert even, closer like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields at this point in time. Just because we don't know. They said several weeks. That could mean the preseason. It could mean 2 games in the regular season for all we know. And if he's missing 2 games in the regular season, I'd rather have these other really good guys at a lower price.
Let's go back to the baseball trading deadline from yesterday. The Pirates didn't really make a lot of moves. They made a couple of minor trades, made another trade with the Padres for some prospects. But some of the starting pitchers that were on the move, Lance Lynn's had a terrible year. but he's going to Los Angeles. I mean, is it time to maybe roll the dice on Lance Lynn? He's got the talent. Do you like him as a Dodger?
Yeah, I do actually. I think the ballpark works well. I mean, the team context is good. The same problems though followed him out there in his first start. Gave up 3 solo homers to the A's of all teams. So I think he's now given up 31 or 32 homers, leads baseball in home runs allowed. That hasn't changed.
John, there were a lot of situations yesterday at the trading deadline that put new closers in place?
Yeah, we saw a little bit. It mostly happened before yesterday. Most of them happened earlier. Like, for instance, the Mets. We saw David Robertson go down to the Marlins. Robertson is now so not only is A.J. Puck out of a job as a closer, but now the Mets are splitting it between Ottavino and Raley. Little surprised neither of those two pitchers, who are in their 30s, got dealt as well. But, you would think that once the Mets started trading, those two would have been prime candidates, because I thought someone would have been interested in them, but that wasn't the case. So that was a little surprising.
One of the
The Royals traded Scott Barlow yesterday, so there's an opening there for someone like Carlos Hernandez.
Okay. One other starter that was on the move yesterday that I picked up in one of my leagues today was Michael Lorenzen. I think Lorenzen goes from the Tigers to Philadelphia. What do you think about him coming back to the National League?
It's a downgrade in terms of parks. It's a tougher place to pitch in, but an improved situation. However, that's another team, Dave, that might be going 6 starters for a while.
Okay.
And that means you miss a starter too because of that. I don't know if that lasts full time. They might be on innings limits for someone like Christopher Sanchez. So you might see, that might be one of the reasons why they wanted to go get Lorenzen. And keep in mind too, Aaron Nola is a free agent at the end of the year, so it's more than just this year in mind.
So there were so many Mets that were on the move yesterday and in the days leading up to the deadline. What do you think about Tommy Pham? You think Pham will get a lot of at-bats in Arizona?
Well, it's all their outfielders are left-handed hitting outfielders. Lourdes Gurriel usually DHs. So, I do think he'll play pretty often. I think someone like Alec Thomas might stand to lose out. Corbin Carroll's going to get his playing time, but Jake McCarthy and Alec Thomas, those are the two guys that probably sit more often as a result of this trade.
All right, good deal. Got to leave it there. Man, a lot of things happening.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
Let's get started. Cooper, you ready to go?
Yeah, man.
All right, Hollywood Reporter, they have ranked the 12 Christopher Nolan movies.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
They have ranked the 12 movies. And according to their ranking, The Dark Knight from 2008 is number 1, and Oppenheimer, which is in the theaters now, is number 2. So my question to you is, in terms of Christopher Nolan movies, which one did you like better, Tenet or Inception? Please pick one.
Inception was easier to follow. It might have been more. I liked Inception. I thought it was a good movie. I thought they carried out well. I thought it was executed well. They're similar types of movies, but Tenet gets a little bit too much into itself. I feel like I don't have a problem necessarily following it. I just don't want to after a certain point in time. Inception, I never had that issue. I like the game of figuring it out. I'm one of those people who didn't have much of a problem figuring out the different levels behind it. So I thought it was kind of fun. Going back and watching it a few times, you pick up a few things. But I really liked it. Tenet, I didn't have any desire to go back and watch again. So I got to go with Inception.
Man, I love Tenet, but I'm still confused.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
It's a confusing movie. All right, so let's talk a little bit about classic rock. Of course,
okay,
of course I'm going to do that. So Leonard Skinner will celebrate 50 years of Southern rock with a career-spanning box set called 50. It'll be released on October the 13th. It's a 4-CD or digital set focusing on various phases of the band's storied history. So we're talking about Southern rock here, Coop. Better Southern rock band, Molly Hatchet, 38 Special, or the Marshall Tucker Band.
Oh.
Am I flirting with disaster in this particular category? Can you see what I'm trying to do here?
Yes, indeed I can.
Okay.
Of those, I probably personally listen to Marshall Tucker more than the rest. So I'll just go with Marshall Tucker. Southern rock's not super my brand. It's one of those things I have music of, but it's not one where I get totally into the artist. So yeah, I think that Marshall Tucker, of all those, I listen to more than.
Would you consider yourself caught up in this topic?
In Southern Rock? No. Okay. No. You mean like who's doing Southern Rock today?
I was just trying to drop as many song titles as I possibly could.
I got that. Okay, I missed that one at first. Yeah, okay, I got you.
I think you like you like this kind of stuff. How about this? Forget about Disneyland, man. How would you like to ride a gravy-themed roller coaster in Indiana?
Did you say gravy?
Yes, gravy train.
Like biscuits and gravy?
Santa Claus, Indiana, population 2,600.
There's a lot going on here.
Will be unveiling a new Thanksgiving-themed roller coaster dedicated entirely to gravy in May 2024. So the idea here is that you have to race against time to help Grandma make her famous gravy and save Thanksgiving dinner. And you'll board a train that's shaped like a large gravy boat.
Okay.
All right. So there you go. A gravy roller coaster in Indiana. So my question to you here is roller coasters or bumper cars? Roller coasters or bumper cars? Please pick one.
You know, I haven't been on a roller coaster in a long time, man. It's been a minute since I've been on a roller coaster. It's been even longer since I've been in a bumper car, I think. I do want to take the kid to Camden Park soon. Because I think she's about, and you know, the bumper cars there and I go way back. But if I had to choose, like if I wanted to get on the bumper cars or get on a roller coaster, assuming there's no rides or anything, I think I used to be fearless. I think that I can still get on a roller coaster. I won't know until I try, but I think that I would enjoy the roller coaster more. Bumper cars are fun. With my kid, they'll be great, but as an adult, they're just kind of boring.
Here's my next category from the NFL. There's a really interesting story of Pro Football Talk today about the NFL is looking at some of the things the XFL was doing to make kickoffs safer.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of difficult to describe, but one of the things that's in the article that's really interesting is the NFL has looked into this, and the guys who are on the special teams unit, when they're running down the field to catch up with the guy who's got the ball, are going an average of 17 miles an hour. So literally it is like a car crash.
Sure.
Okay? So my question to you, pick one. Which is more exciting, a kickoff return touchdown or a punt return touchdown? Please pick one.
Man, they're always so... both of them are so great. The kickoff returns are typically longer. They're typically longer, but the setup is a little bit more deliberate. Punt returns and kickoff returns also usually reverses a score. Unless you do it to open up a half, it usually reverses a score. You scored a touchdown, another guy gets a touchdown back. That's why I think a punt return is more likely to be a game changer in that, you know, if you force somebody to punt and maybe you just scored, you force them to punt, and you score again, you're really doing something. And for whatever reason, I think the punt returns get the house a little bit more excited. I don't know why it is, because I think both of them are great. I understand the safety issue. I do miss having great kick returners like the Mel Grays or from West Virginia, Fulton Walker and Willie Drury. I mean, whoever. Yeah. I miss having those guys being specialists back there. But I think punt return.
Punt return's the answer.
Yeah.
All right. By the way, we love to talk about donuts on the show. Visit any participating Krispy Kreme donut place today with a losing lottery ticket from Tuesday Mega Millions or any losing lottery ticket and receive a free donut. They'll even accept tickets presented on mobile apps. Either way, you can get a free donut, even if you didn't hit the lottery. So please pick one. 2 free donuts or 1 free hot dog.
Oh.
2 free donuts or 1 free hot dog. Please pick one.
Hot dog every day. Hot dog every day. That's an easy call for me.
All right. What do you got for me?
Okay, let's start off with, which band had better B-sides? Better B-sides. The Smiths, many of the band's B-sides, like How Soon Is Now, which was originally a B-side, and William, Was It Really Nothing, are some of their better considered songs. Or Oasis. They're also known for quality B-sides, tracks like Master Plan and Acquiesce. Better B-sides, The Smiths or Oasis?
Man, this is a really good question because I've kind of done a deep dive on the Smiths within the last maybe 6 weeks or so, but I'm still a bigger Oasis fan. And I have their box set. So
some of those B-sides are amazing.
They are pretty great. They are pretty, but they had some duds as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They had some duds as well. But now, the careers are pretty similar, right? I mean, in terms of how long both bands were in existence?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I still think Oasis is the pick.
Okay. All right, let's go. Okay, so this is one of my true or false things, okay? So here we go. This is which story from the annals of literature is true. You got to pick out which one is true. Edgar Allan Poe has a story called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket that not only mirrors a real-life shipwreck that occurred later, including accurately predicting the name of an unfortunate crew member. So it predicts it all the way down to the name of an actual crew member, or scholars have now revealed that research suggests that William Shakespeare was likely illiterate, with his works being dictated or transcribed from nearly unreadable notes. Which story is true?
That is really tough. That's really, really tough. You know what? The Shakespeare thing sounds a little fishy. So I'm going to go with the first one.
Very well. In Edgar Allan Poe's story, the Grampus crew becomes stranded and resorts to cannibalism, sacrificing a crew boy by the name of Richard Parker. Strikingly, over 40 years later, in 1884, the Millionette, a yacht sank. The same amount of crew members survived. Its stranded crew, driven by hunger and thirst, decided to consume the weakest, a 17-year-old cabin boy by the name of Richard Parker.
Wow. That's creepy, man.
Isn't that crazy? Okay, question number 3. We're at number 3 now. Better sports nickname. A better sports nickname. The Atomic Flea, which is Messi, or the Swiss Maestro, Federer?
I think Federer's nickname is better.
Okay.
I think it's better because it describes him in a better fashion.
Okay.
The Atomic Flea is almost like shade on Messi.
Yeah, I like anything with atomic in it because it makes me think like of an old school superhero or something, but I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
I mean, Federer's backhand is just insane.
It's a maestro.
Yeah, he is a maestro. Yeah, give me Fed.
Okay, Federer there. Okay, so this is a game that I just came up with today, reincorporating an old game that we all played in the 90s. Remember 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm taking the concept of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon and using guests from this program. So we're starting with Ed Asner.
Okay.
So here's how it works. Kevin Bacon and Ed Asner, here's their connection with Less Than 6 Degrees. Kevin Bacon was in JFK with Jack Lemmon. Jack Lemmon was in JFK with Kevin Bacon. And in Shortcuts with Andy McDowell. Andy McDowell was in Michael in 1996 with Gene Stapleton. Gene Stapleton was in Up in 2009 with Ed Asner. Which of these connection movies are best? JFK, Shortcuts, Michael, or Up?
Man, Up is a really good movie.
Indeed.
It's a really good movie, but it's not JFK. It's not JFK. JFK will get you thinking.
Okay.
That's for me. Okay. I wasn't really that big of a fan of Michael.
Yeah, Michael wasn't great. I actually like Shortcuts. I think that's a pretty good movie. Yeah, I like that.
JFK is the answer.
Okay, so now we're almost done. Okay, so the final question is, pick a worse food crime. Which is a worse food crime? Ketchup on pasta, using ketchup as a substitute for marinara, or ketchup on scrambled eggs?
I think it's got to be ketchup on pasta, right? Because there are a lot of people, I'm not one of them, that do use ketchup on their eggs.
Everybody in South America I met put ketchup on eggs.
Yeah. So the ketchup on pasta, that's the bigger crime.
There we go.
All right. That was a good one.
Yeah, man.
That was a good one. All right.
Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
Oh, all right, Coop. It's time for Ryan Nicholson's video game report. Video game report. So we've got the music. This is one of the best music beds we have. So Ryan, what is your video game report about today?
Oh, it's about good old Activision Blizzard and the Microsoft deal.
Okay.
Well, not necessarily like directly about the deal, but about the implications, the overall ripples it will send throughout the video game industry. And turns out Microsoft penned a deal with Sony to keep Call of Duty and Activision franchise on PlayStation for the next 10 years, which is pretty good because, you know, Call of Duty is one of the biggest game franchises in the U.S. right now. Mm-hmm. But they started making this deal actually way before they announced that they were going to buy Activision Blizzard. So this has been a long time in the making. But there's one small problem, because the devil is in the details, you know? This only refers to Call of Duty. It doesn't refer to anything else. So there's a potential that Microsoft could just pull a bunch of Activision Blizzard franchises off of PlayStation and just leave them with Call of Duty, which would be kind of bad.
Kind of bad. And if you're thinking, you guys have been talking about this story. We've had multiple reports about it. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is a very big deal.
Yeah,
and it looked for a while like Microsoft was not going to be able to pull this off.
Yeah,
right?
I was a doubter, and I've been proven wrong in all but written word. They haven't penned the contract yet, but I'd say it's like a 90% chance that it's going to go through.
$69 billion.
Yep.
Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard for $69 billion.
That is a lot of lottery tickets.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right. Is that it? Or is there anything else?
Well, Baldur's Gate 3 comes out tomorrow.
Oh, I know you like that.
Yeah, I'll be taking the day off. I won't be here.
Coop, does Ryan get days off for video game considerations?
Ryan has days off he can spend any way he wants. He's a vested employee.
He probably gets like half a day for this report in this show.
And technically, since I have categorized me playing this game as research. So
nice.
Yeah, this is technically part of my job.
You probably forged Coop's signature for some legal documents.
Yes, I did.
All right. That's the video game report. Game report.
Very short one.
Short one today.
Metro News Hotline. Weekdays from 3 until 6. Syndicated over the air and online at wvmetronews.com. This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
Welcome back. Always fun to spend a couple of minutes catching up with Germain Lussier from Gizmodo.com. Germain, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing well, thank you.
Hey, man, literally within the hour, you have put up a review of Meg 2, The Trench. Now, before we talk about your review, did you like the first movie?
I love the first movie. I think it is beautifully ridiculous, and I had to go back and revisit it, and I won't forget that. You think the movie is over when they defeat the Meg halfway through, and then a bigger Meg eats it, and the movie keeps going on. It's a beautiful symphony of absurdity.
Now, you didn't like Meg 2, The Trench. What's the problem?
No. It just doesn't come together. It's directed by this guy named Ben Wheatley, who's a really great filmmaker, but he makes these kind of low-budget, atmospheric movies. And imagine if that guy tried to make the Meg. He'd be like, oh, no, we want a big shark. And no, we'd want a jet ski. And it has all these things in it, but it just has this serious tone that's kind of juxtaposed with these absurd images. And it doesn't feel right. The whole movie just doesn't feel right. You're like, why am I not enjoying seeing these killer sharks eating people? It's because the music isn't right, or the editing isn't fast enough. It just wasn't a great mix of filmmaker and material, and as a result, I think the movie is really kind of flat.
You mentioned in your review that there were some misguided sci-fi elements in this thing.
Yeah. It's not really. It's called Meg 2, The Trench, and it's kind of a perfect title because half the movie's about Megs and half the movie's about a trench. And in the trench, they walk through a bioluminescence, and they have to go really down deep, and they're in a really tight space. So it feels like Abyss, it feels like Alien, an Avatar, or at least it's trying to. And it really feels like that. It's almost like they took a bunch of things from different movies and shoved them together, and it didn't really work out.
And one more question about this. I mean, with what happened with Barbie, it is a $1 billion franchise, and Oppenheimer just opened. I mean, people are going back to the movies. Despite the problems this movie has, will Meg 2, The Trench be a big moneymaker?
I don't think so. I don't think they did a really great job of promoting it. I mean, the fact that the reviews are coming out today, the movie opens, is a pretty good sign they knew what they had. I mean, if anything, people should go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which also comes out, or just came out yesterday, and is absolutely fantastic, getting better reviews than Barbie and Oppenheimer, though, it's a little bit more, kid-oriented, but the movie is, right down the pike, perfect for anybody who used to like Turtles. It's got plenty of 90s nostalgia. Got that Spider-Verse look. It is fantastic. One of my favorite movies of the year so far.
Talking with Germain Lussier from Gizmodo.com about TV, movies, and more. Speaking of money, I liked what you wrote yesterday about Pixar's Elemental, because I think you got this exactly right, that when the movie came out and didn't make a lot of money that first weekend, we were assuming that it was going to be a box office bomb. You point out that this thing has now made over $400 million.
Yeah, I mean, and because 99% of the time that's true. 99% of the time, by Friday morning, a studio knows if the movie's a hit or not. They can tell based on just like how many people show up at certain times of day. And Elemental was tracking that way. It looked like it was dead. In fact, it was the second lowest grossing Pixar movie all time, behind only the first Toy Story from 1995, which at that time was considered a hit, with like a $30 million opening. So yeah, everybody assumed it was dead. But there wasn't a lot of kid stuff out in theaters. There was like Ruby Gillman, which everybody said was bad. Everybody had already seen Super Mario. Spider-Verse kind of, but that's a little bit older. And so, and Elemental's really good. So people just keep showing up. And yeah, it's over 400 million worldwide, only about 200 million in the United States. But still, that's like much better than all the most recent Pixar movies.
You know what? When I read this piece, I started thinking, a movie like Elemental, if really young kids like it, don't they sometimes do a lot of repeat business that your kids will see a movie like this more than one time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's probably a little less these days when the tickets are, even on a good day, $8 each,
Yeah.
But it depends on what time of day you go. But, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's why Barbie's going to continue to be a hit. I mean, obviously not a kids movie, but repeat business in general is a huge part. I mean, I saw Top Gun Maverick like 4 times in the theater. I mean, there you go. That's why the movie made so much money.
Hey, finally, I love that. I mention this all the time when you do this. You always have an article every month, the best horror, sci-fi, and fantasy streaming options for the month. And your new article for August 2023 is out. Hey, is it my imagination, or are these streaming services offering fewer new movies every month? Because I'm looking at this list for Netflix, and it looks kind of light.
Yeah, they do. They don't. I mean, first of all, remember, I'm just picking out the sci-fi fantasy horror. So I'm cutting out a lot of things. So there are some like straight comedies, straight dramas that don't make it into my article. But I think in general, that is true. I mean, it's a rights issue. Sometimes they can only keep things for a certain amount of months. Sometimes they lose it. Sometimes it goes back. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. But yeah, I mean, certain months are just definitely lighter, and Netflix in particular has been definitely focusing more on original content for sure.
Well, I'm looking at the new movies for Netflix this month. They're all over the Fast and Furious, obviously. Fast and Furious, Fast 5, The Fast and the Furious, The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. Grossly underrated, in my opinion. Too Fast, Too Furious. All come on to Netflix this month. Hey, Germain, thanks for your time today, man. I'll talk to you next week.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin.
Let's get Kathy Mattea on the line and talk about Mountain Stage. Hey, Kathy, how you doing in Nashville today?
I'm doing good. Doing really well here in Nashville. It's cooled down, a little rain, very pleasant outside, 3 deer in the backyard. What else could you want?
That sounds pretty good. You know what? I'm one of the first times we ever had a conversation about Mountain Stage. You were at the pool with Susie Boggess. You remember that?
Oh God, I remember that. Yes, I remember, because I don't do very many interviews from Susie Boggess's pool house. It doesn't happen very often.
So when are you heading out to California for the big show next weekend?
It is this weekend, and I head out Saturday.
Wow.
So tell me a little bit. Full of equipment left, I think, Monday or Tuesday from West Virginia, and all the West Virginia contingents flying out tomorrow, and I'm coming in on 2 wheels on Saturday afternoon.
Now, you've been in this location where you're going to be performing in Sonoma, right?
Yeah, I played there for a 4th of July concert about 4 or 5 years ago with the symphony there. And the room itself, I mean, you'll feel it on the radio. You won't get to see it, but it's all made of wood. It's like a beautiful concert hall, very acoustically live. And it's, you know, it's one of those rooms, there are a lot like them around the country, except for this one. The back wall rolls up, and there's a whole lawn amphitheater out the back. And it's just, after I played, we all went out there and watched the fireworks go off. It's just a stunning place. I'm so excited to go back and to bring Mountain Stage.
By the way, Adam Harris sent me a note about taking the gear for Mountain Stage from the Culture Center to Sonoma, California. The semi left at 5 a.m. on Tuesday morning. I'll bet that's quite the trip.
Oh, my gosh. Every time we go somewhere far away, those guys have stories when they get there. And, these guys work very hard. It's a long way from Charleston to Northern California. And, that's just the crew of Mountain Stage. That's how they are. They're like, we're on it. We got it. We'll see you there.
Kathy, literally, you have played thousands. The number of shows you've probably played in your lifetime is in the thousands, right? So, when you go out to Sonoma, California, how long will you be out there before you come home? Will you spend an extra day there, or will you come right back?
Pretty much we come right back because, or at least speaking for myself, I tend to come right back because part of what makes me able to do it is touching base at home, looking my husband in the eye, doing a couple things that are sort of anchoring things for me, seeing some friends, and then going back out. It's like I have to round home base, in order to know who I am, so I don't just start feeling like a leaf on the wind.
Hey, let's talk about some of not only is it going to be a great trip for you out to Sonoma, it's going to be a great show, great lineup. We talked a little bit about Booker T. Jones. He's the headliner.
Yeah, we'll be hearing Green Onions for sure this weekend. And
for sure,
a lot of people don't know Booker T's really well known for playing on, every soul record, all these classic records. But he also moved out to L.A. and he produced Willie Nelson's Stardust album, and he produced all of Bill Withers' records. So there's a lovely West Virginia connection there already. I'm so excited to meet this man.
You know what? We were playing some of Bill Withers on the show yesterday, some of Coop's bumper music. I don't think Bill Withers ever made a bad record.
No. And, those records, they're timeless. They're just timeless. They don't sound dated. They don't sound like they come from any era. You just listen to them, and they sound like they've always been there. That's that's artistry.
Yeah, he was a fantastic artist, gone too soon, obviously. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Carla Bonoff, and we've got some music we're going to play from her. She'll be on this show. We're talking with Kathy Mattea, the host of Mountain Stage. They've got a show this weekend in Sonoma, California. How about just a couple of thoughts on Carla Bonoff?
Carla Bonoff wrote the soundtrack to my life. She wrote these Linda Ronstadt hits, then she had her own hits. She's sung on records for me. The last time she played here in Nashville, I went to see her and visited with her. She has a guitar player who's going to play with her named Nina Gerber that I've known for years, who lives in Northern California and is legendary. Like all of us would love to have her as our guitar player, but she only goes out with certain people for so long. And so I'm so looking forward to hearing her and seeing her. And it's just sort of a full circle moment for me.
All right, let's hear a little bit of Carla Bonoff. This song is Lose Again. You may be more familiar with the Linda Ronstadt version.
Free me from my heart this time. The train's gone down the track, and I've stayed behind. But nothing can free me from this ball and chain. I made up my mind I would live today, but you keep letting me go. And now it's insane, because I love you and lose again.
Man, what a wonderful song.
Yeah, classic.
Hey, tell me a little bit about Chris Smither. He's also going to be on this show.
Oh, man, he's a folk and blues legend. He's been making records for 50 years. He's really well known for a certain kind of guitar style that he developed from listening to Lightnin' Hopkins and Mississippi John Hurt. But he's also known as a songwriter. He's an old friend of Bonnie Raitt. She's done a bunch of his songs. And the song we're going to play from him is a song that lots and lots of people, I've played it around campfires for years, and this is one of his big classics, and it's called Leave the Light On. It's just one of my faves of his.
Hit it, Coop. This is Chris Smither.
If I were young again, I'd pay attention to that little known dimension, the taste of endless time. It's just like water, it runs right through our fingers, but the flavor of it lingers like a rich red wine. In those days we were single, and we lived them one by one. Now we hardly see them, they don't walk, they run. But I got plenty left, I've set my sight on. Don't wait up, leave the light on, I'll be home soon. I never seen my life in such a hurry, but if I stop to worry, I get left behind. It's like a party, but you don't get invitations, and there's just one destination, you better be on time. For years we rhymed in couplets, and we sang them 2 by 2. Now we hardly rhyme at all, but here's a few. And if they hurt, there's bullets left to bite on. Don't wait up, leave the light on, I'll be home soon.
Chris Smither will be on Mountain Stage this weekend. Mountain Stage will be performing in Sonoma, California. Kathy Mattea, the host of the show, we're winding down with her. She's joining us from Nashville today. Hey, Kathy, Mountain Stage, for people who live in West Virginia, we know how special it is. It's been going on for years. But you know what? When you do a show like this one out on the West Coast, it's really like carrying the banner for West Virginia out to California.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a chance to let them sort of get a taste of what it's like to make the show. And I think the station out there has been carrying Mountain Stage for like 25 years. So it's a chance to say thank you and to spread the gospel of West Virginia and show people what our hospitality is like. And also sort of say, hey, if you're ever passing through, we tape this show in West Virginia all the time. Come see us.
Yeah, come visit us for sure. Well, Kathy, have a safe trip out there, and have a great show, and we'll be talking again soon.
This is Hotline Weekend.
Ryan, Jarett, are you guys ready to do some buy or sell?
Yes.
Born ready. So here we go. Hit the Mose Allison. That takes my blood pressure right down.
Music from Dave's childhood.
Yeah. I love that. Love Mose Allison. All right. Time now for buy or sell. We were thinking every Thursday when Amy Smith from Investors Business Daily comes on the show at 5:06 to talk about buying and selling stocks in the financial markets, why don't Coop and I do a segment where we use the same idea for sports, music, pop culture, and more. So that's what we're doing today. So let's get started with buy or sell. Jarett, why don't you start? What do you got?
Okay, you've been asking me to bat leadoff a lot lately.
I have.
Okay.
You feel good about that? You want Ryan to go?
No, I feel great. I feel great.
Okay.
Let's do it. Okay, so my buy or sell has to do with the UFC.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how much you guys pay attention to the UFC, or if you know about the fights that they have going on or anything, but there's a pretty big card last weekend that I watched in on. It involved Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, two pretty big names in the UFC game, and they had fought before. I believe they last fought in, it was either 2018 or 2019, and Poirier won that fight. So they had a rematch, pretty big card, so I paid attention to it. Now, I've been kind of keeping up with the UFC a little bit more over the past couple of years, so I wanted to make sure I stayed up and watched this fight, and it was a pretty good fight. Gaethje won in the second round with a head kick, and he took some time. He celebrated. The whole arena is going crazy. They had this fight in Salt Lake City, Utah, so the place is going wild. But leading up to big fights like this, you kind of see fighters, they're kind of going back and forth. They're trying to build it up. They're trying to get some publicity and trying to make a name for themselves. So they like to bark back and forth at each other. So, and you'll see that in a lot of big fights, and you'll even see it in some boxing matches. There's a pretty big boxing match with Jake Paul and Nate Diaz coming up pretty soon.
Right.
So, these guys, they like to build up the event. So my buy or sell comes down to this. Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, after the fight, they were pretty buddy-buddy with each other. They showed some respect to one another. So buy or sell fighters being buddy-buddy with each other following the fight, even if leading up to the fight, they were kind of they kind of acted like they didn't appreciate one another, I guess.
This is a good topic. I'm going to, if I say I'm buying this, that means I support that.
If you buy it, you think that, it's cool to be buddy-buddy, show respect to the fighter.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it's really kind of different depending on the sport. Because, for example, in the NBA, I kind of want these teams not to like each other. I want the Lakers and the Celtics not to like each other. I want the Pistons and the Bulls not to like each other. Boxing is a little bit different. I mean, you just tried to knock the guy's block off in a professional fight. If they have like mutual respect after the bout, I'm cool with that. And you know what? There's an element of UFC that's a little bit like wrestling, where it's a bit of a show before the fight. I mean, how many press conferences have turned into like theater events?
Right.
So I'm going to buy this.
Yeah. And just recently, a couple of days ago, I mentioned the Jake Paul and Nate Diaz fight. They had the squaring off, they get up into each other's face, and their teams actually started a little bit of a brawl. So it seems like there's some bad blood between this fight. Now, are these two guys going to be buddy-buddy after the fight?
I don't know.
I sure hope not.
By the way, SummerSlam is this weekend in Detroit.
Nice. There you go.
Ryan, you got an opinion?
I'd say, keep it respectful. Keep the rivalries and the storyline for wrestling. That's their wheelhouse. But, I'll buy.
Gonna buy it?
Okay.
All right. Let me go next. Okay. So, I've been obsessed with this conference realignment thing, and I'm going to get off that for a moment, but I'm going to stay in college sports because it was announced today Notre Dame has signed a second 10-year contract with Under Armour. And Under Armour beats out Nike and Adidas to keep Notre Dame gear. It's worth roughly $10 million annually. Yahoo Sports reported that yesterday. And, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in these types of deals. Manchester United just signed a brand new deal with Adidas that's going to pay them like $100 million a year. A couple of these schools have been changing the brands that they wear. Now, guys, buy or sell. This is just not as big a news as it used to be. It's just not that big of a deal anymore.
I was wondering where you were going to go with this topic. Well, I'm a Notre Dame guy.
I know. Does that mean you're going to go out and buy another Under Armour jersey because Under Armour has their rights?
Not really. I mean, I'm not going to buy it just because there's a new deal. I would if there was something cool, like if they came out with a newer, cooler jersey, maybe, because they have those, specialty Notre Dame games that they'll play in a MLB ballpark, and they'll end up wearing, a specialty jersey designed by Under Armour. So you may end up doing something like that.
Okay. Or you might want a Notre Dame green jersey. They're going to wear the green jersey again this year.
They're going to wear the all green. Did you see? They got the green pants with that too. I like Under Armour inking up with Notre Dame. I think the two go pretty well together. I was hoping they wouldn't go down a route of Nike or a Jordan brand designing all of their stuff, because I think the Under Armour gear has been pretty solid for Notre Dame. And like what I just mentioned, the deal where they have the Shamrock Series, for instance, they played a game at Yankee Stadium one year, so they have the pinstripes kind of intact with the jersey and with that design. So because there's a new deal, I'm not gonna, necessarily go out and buy something new because of that. But if it was something cool, if they designed something that was pretty sweet, they're playing in Ireland season opener against Navy.
Right.
So I don't know if they have anything new upcoming as far as what they're wearing for that game, but they're going to have some new stuff this year, and I'm excited for it. So I guess I'm going to sell buying something just because of this new deal that they have.
All right. Ryan, you got a thought on this before you want to launch your topic?
It wasn't news before this segment, and it won't be news after it. I'll sell.
All right. What's your topic?
All right. So, Dave, when I say trading cards, what do you think of?
I think of baseball cards.
Well, you're wrong. We're talking about trading card games. We're talking about Pokemon. We're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh. We're talking about Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
Specifically, a Magic the Gathering card that was sold to Post Malone for $2 million. And it got me thinking. This card, I actually researched what the card does in the game, and it just lets you pull more cards from the player's deck, which is just Pot of Greed, but in Magic the Gathering. So and if it's like Pot of Greed, then it's going to be banned from tournaments. So this card, worth $2 million, and has already been minted and sealed inside a case, has no tactical purpose whatsoever. So, buy or sell, eventually trading card games are going to devolve into collectibles.
I'm going to buy that. Mm-hmm. I think you're onto something there. Jared, you brought up Jake Paul, right? Mm-hmm. Jake Paul's like a monster when it comes to like Pokemon cards, isn't it?
Yeah,
isn't
his brother. Yeah. Well, Logan Paul showed up to a fight with a mint Charizard in a case around his neck. So, those two are very involved in the trading card game.
Yeah. But I think eventually, though, you're right, Ryan. I think eventually this is going to be a collector idea.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to buy this too because I don't know anybody that still plays. You know, like when I think of Pokemon, for example, like I don't think of playing the game.
Right.
I think of the cards and just having the cards. And I know a lot of my friends from home, from back from in school, they still collect cards, and they'll collect basketball, baseball, football, the sports cards, but they also have kind of invested in some Pokemon stuff because there was a pretty big surge just a few years ago when I was still in school. So, but yeah, I'm going to buy that too because, you know, really influencers have kind of gotten involved into this game where they're buying these cards, these super rare cards, and holding on to them. So yeah, I'm going to buy that.
All right. That was a 3-man weave edition of Buy or Sell. We do it every Friday at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. That was a good one.
This is Hotline Weekend.
Let me bring to the stage Pat Strader, #Beer Friday. Pat, it's 85 degrees here in Charleston. What can you tell me about a cold beer, brother?
I can tell you I've got a few in the fridge.
That sounds like a pretty good plan. Hey, man, before we get started, did you ever think that West Virginia University would be in the same conference with the Arizona Wildcats?
Man, I tell you what, this has been very entertaining theater, to say the least. But no, I didn't. But here we are. You know, the landscape is turned upside down.
Yeah, certainly has. And we got a lot of local beer stuff to get into. And let's start talking about celebrating IPA Day.
Yeah, so today is National IPA Day. So all you hopheads out there rejoice. And I did notice that Old Spruce today is releasing a red IPA. So, you know, a red IPA is not, gosh, I don't feel like we see these that often anymore. I think that, you know, it's, I don't want to say it's a traditional style, but, you know, a lot of folks are kind of moving into hazies and all these other types of things. But these red IPAs are really fantastic. And the cool thing about this, we've talked a lot in the past about using local ingredients. They're using honey in this beer, which, you know, ferments out and it helps bump up the ABV a little bit, from Greenbrier Bee Farm. So that's happening today. If you happen to be around over in Pocahontas County, stop in there to Old Spruce.
Yeah, it's right there on Rescue Road at Snowshoe. Hey, here's a couple of questions for you, Pat, from listeners. 304-410. Dave, here's a question for the beer guru. That would be you, Pat. What is the strongest citrus craft beer you've ever had, and would you have it again?
Strongest citrus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I'll have to come back to that one, Dave.
Okay. You know what? I think that's a pretty good question. Maybe I'll try to hit you with that again next week. This is here's a great question. We've talked about this before, but I think we can do it again. 304-826. Dave, ask Pat, what's the ideal temperature for a beer?
So good question. And I think, you know, there's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, Dave? Conventional wisdom, you know, that like beers need to be teeth cracking cold. And you know, I tell you what, on a hot day after you mowed the lawn, there is nothing quite like a really nice cold beer. But generally, in that case, you know, we talked about the lawnmower beers. They're just, you know, lighter and that type of thing. But, you know, to really get the most flavor and the aroma, which plays into the flavor profile of a beer, you know, it's a lot warmer than you might think. And it is definitely not served in a mug that has got ice on it. So, you know, letting a beer warm up just a little bit, I'm not talking about letting it get to like room temperature or anything like that, but, you know, it really opens up the beer, if you will. And I know that sounds like a kind of a pretentious wine term there, but like dark beers in particular, like stouts and imperial stouts, now those can be closer to room temperature, and that is when their flavor really kind of comes out.
Good question. Let's get back to what's going on. I guess this is a topic for IPA Day. Tell me a little bit about Amani Pacific Sunset.
Yeah, so Amani over in the Eastern Panhandle, we've talked about them quite a bit in the past, but I did notice that they've got a beautiful picture of it's called Pacific Sunset. I don't know much about this beer, you know, in terms of like the hop profile and things, but it looks like just a really classic IPA. So if you happen to be over there in the Eastern Panhandle, stop in there to Amani and give this one a try.
There you go. Free Folk Flying Squirrel release party tomorrow.
Yeah, Flying Squirrel. I love it. So, you know, Free Folk has done these kind of seasonal beers quite a bit. You know, like they've and a lot of them are related to flora fauna here in West Virginia, and I really like that. So the Flying Squirrel is coming back, and the release party is actually tomorrow at the Brew House in Hyco. So if you have not been up there, it's right off of Route 60, right before, if you're coming from Charleston, it's right before the Route 19 interchange on Route 60. And it's a brand, you know, when I say brand new, it's a retrofitted facility, but it's a brand new brew house that they have put together there that just looks incredible.
I'm looking at the brew house and tasting room hours. They're closed Monday through Thursday, but they're open now. Opened at 4 until 9 on Saturday from noon to 9 and Sunday from 3 to 8. Flying Squirrel, does that come in a can?
You know, I know that they've done them in like 22-ounce bombers in the past, but you know, I would be shocked if they don't have them in cans, just because of, you know, the expansion that they went through.
Hey, hit me with some news from the Peddler.
Yeah, the Peddler. This is a really cool story. So this beer is called Ice Cream Sour, and this is a grape pineapple kettle sour. And this is one that they actually kind of teamed up with Austin's at the Market and replicated the flavors of their number one selling ice cream. So it's got, you know, grape, pineapple, and then they added some lactose to it. You know, they described that as for some creamy mouthfeel. So just a really cool little, I'll call it a collaboration, Dave, with Austin's at the Market there and the Ice Cream Sour. All
right, we got one more to talk about. And give me the latest info on what's happening at Abolitionist.
Man, I tell you, I feel like a broken record, Dave. I'm always talking about like abolitionists and just, you know, how creative they are. But this is a beer. I have not seen this one before. They may have brewed it in the past and I just missed it. But this is called Wild Wit Wedding. So this is a wheat ale. That wit is the wheat, fermented with wild yeast, you know, which is you literally just take a dish out and just collect yeast out of the air. Tangerines and black peppercorns. This sounds really, really fascinating to me, and quite a interesting flavor profile there with tangerines and black peppercorns. But the Wild Wit Wedding is now available at Abolitionist.
There you go. You can find Abolitionist Ale Works in downtown Charlestown over there in the Eastern Panhandle. Good report, Pat. You had a lot of local stuff. I love talking beer with you every Friday at 4:33. What's in your hand or what will be there soon?
Man, I'm going to go grab a couple IPAs. I mean, you got to celebrate National IPA Day, especially since I'm a hophead. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to grab, but it will definitely be an IPA, and it will be very.
Hey, I've been meaning to ask you this. A couple of weeks ago, you were out on the West Coast, and you saw the last performance of Dead and Company, the surviving members of the Grateful Dead. Do you try to collect tapes, audio files of shows you attended?
You know, I used to have a quite a substantial tape collection, but you can find everything now pretty much online. I do have a couple really old ones that I have. I don't have anything to play it on there, Dave. I need to maybe go with you one day on some of your adventures, your weekend adventures, and find a tape deck. But yeah.
You know what? On my old weekday show, my old 7 o'clock show here in Charleston, we were talking about the only Grateful Dead performances that ever occurred inside the state of West Virginia. And literally the next day when I came in, an anonymous listener dropped me off a cassette of one of them. And I still have.
You know, that's awesome. Is it the Huntington or the Morgantown show?
It was the Huntington show.
That was a heater of a show.
That
was fantastic. Yeah, and then they played in Morgantown, and then the state of West Virginia told them never to come back.
That was it. All right. Hey, Pat, great stuff today, man. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll talk more beer next Friday at 4:33.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Happy Beer Friday.
Happy Beer Friday to you as well.
This is Hotline Weekend. Tap subscribe now and let the weekend begin. Metro News Hotline, weekdays from 3 until 6. Syndicated over the air and online at wvmetronews.com. Metro News Hotline.